Chapter 7, Thunder Cave. When I got home, I checked my list. Because of the money situation, I'd have to modify the original plan. I wouldn't have money to stay in a hotel every night, and I wouldn't be able to afford to hire someone to drive me to the area my father was in. I called the travel agent. "This is Jacob Lanza. I was wondering if it's possible to take my bike to Kenya." "Your bike?" Yeah, I said. "My mountain bike." She didn't answer right away. I didn't see why not. People take them to Europe all the time, but this is the first time I've heard of someone wanting to take a bike to Africa. Would it cost more? "I don't think so," she said. "It depends on what else you're taking and how much room there is on the flight. Let me call the airline and ask them. Hold on a minute." A while later, she came back on the phone. "They said it would be no problem. They'll put your bike in a cardboard container when you get to the airport. "Great," I said, and hung up. I took down the maps of Kenya and spread them on the living room floor. The Guruman-S compartment was about 250 miles from Narubu. I would be able to stay on the main road until I got to Ewaso Negro. After that, I would ride south on the dirt road for about 40 miles, then cut across the Labarito Hills. I figured that I could ride 30 to 40 miles a day on the paved road and maybe 20 miles a day on the dirt road. After that, I didn't know what I was going to do. At the wake, Bill had marked down where he thought my father's camp was, and he's always breaking camp and moving it, he said. If he stays in one place too long, people show up asking if they can do odd jobs in exchange for food. It's hard to turn them away. They're starving, and there's no place for them to go. At one point, he had nearly 100 people staying around his camp. He finally arranged for them to be moved to the nearest refugee camp. Of course, the refugee camps are grim places, but at least there's a little bit of food trickling into them and some medical help. The only thing I could hope for was to get to the general area, then ask for specific directions, providing there was someone to ask. I marked my route on the map and figured on 8 or 9 days to get there. I packed my gear: sleeping bag, drop cloth, compass, binoculars, water bottles, knife, matches, cooking utensils, small camp stove, bicycle tools, tire pump, tire repair kit, sweater, 2 shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, jacket, baseball cap, t-shirts, underwear, socks, and a set of bicycle panniers to carry everything in. I was confident that I'd be all right. Despite the drought, I had done very well in the summer survival course in Arizona. I knew how to find water, get a fire going without matches, find food, read a map, use a compass, and build a shelter. Survival in the wilderness is a matter of keeping your head. You've got to realize that time is different when you're in a survival situation. It can take you a whole day to find water, build a fire, and make a shelter. You've just got to realize that you are not going to cover as much ground as you normally would. Survival eats up your time, and if you ignore this principle, you'll get eaten up. Survival is more important than getting there. Remembering what the instructor said, I modified my estimate from 9 days to 14 days. Survival is more important than getting there. The next morning, I rode to the outdoor store and bought packets of freeze-dried food and camp stove fuel. The food was expensive but lightweight, and it wouldn't take up too much room. Beef stroganoff, eggs, chicken, soups, and vegetables. When I got back to the apartment, I packed and repacked my panniers several times. I wasn't taking much with me, but it was still a lot for the small bags. Then I took my loaded bike out for a test ride through Central Park. I jumped curves, sped along the asphalt path, cut through bushes, and rode over the grass and along dirt trails. The extra weight slowed me down, and it was more difficult to maneuver with the bulky panniers over the rear wheels, but overall, I felt good about the ride. The only thing I had to do before taking off for Kenya was visit Tall. Sam wanted to tell him about my mom over the phone, but I insisted that we tell him in person. Tall was fond of my mom, and I wanted to be there when he heard that she was gone. He was in a nursing home near Poughkeepsie, I planned to leave early the next morning, which would give me plenty of time to get back and catch my flight that evening. Back in the apartment, I took off my helmet and leaned my loaded bike against the wall. I was very happy and very hungry. I couldn't really afford it, but I decided to order dinner from Chin's Kitchen, my last dinner in New York. I walked into the living room and froze. Sam was sitting on the couch, talking on the phone. He smiled when I came in and held up his index finger, indicating that he would be off the phone soon. "Right," he said into the phone. "That's what I was saying." I quickly backed out of the room, grabbed my helmet and bike, and left the apartment. What was he doing home? I thought about leaving right then, just hanging around somewhere until my plane left, but Sam might come looking for me. I wheeled my bike down the hall and into the late elevator. I had a key to our storage closet in the basement. My bike panniers would be safe there until I decided what I was going to do. I took them off, then wheeled my bike back into the elevator. Before going up, I stopped in the lobby and got our mail. Nothing from my father, but I hadn't expected anything. When I got to the apartment, I took a deep breath before I opened the door. I put my bike in the hallway. Sam was off the phone, sitting on the living room floor, sorting through papers. "What happened to you?" he asked. "I went down to get the mail." I handed him the pile. "I thought you weren't coming back for a few days," I said casually. "Well, I wasn't," he said, "but the student interviews went better than expected. I was able to pick my assistants out of the first batch, and I have so much to do here." "Right," I said. "I see you've been sorting through your things." He pointed to the camping gear spread out on the floor. I hadn't put away the things I wasn't going to use. "Yeah," I said, still in shock. "What are you up to?" "I thought I'd just pick some things," I said. "Maybe order some takeout from Chin's." "Great idea," he said cheerfully. "I'm starving to death. That plain food is hardly edible. "Well, what do you want?" "Anything will do," he said. My treat." He handed me a 20. I left my bike in the apartment and walked the block to Chin's. It gave me a chance to think about what I was going to do now. Within 24 hours, I was supposed to be on a flight for Kenya. I could just see it now. Sam: "So, what do you have going?" Me: "Oh, I don't know. I thought I'd fly to Africa tomorrow." "Cool, make sure you clean your room before you go." "No problem." I picked up the food and walked back into the apartment. Sam ate while he sorted through papers and packed boxes. He talked excitedly about his new job in Honduras and the new students, the paper he'd given at the meeting. He didn't mention my mother once. The blank spaces. He had to be throwing himself into his work to avoid dealing with the tragedy of my mother's death. There was no other explanation for his apparent happiness. "I need to see Tall," I said, "before I go to Nebraska." "Really? He doesn't know about Mom yet." "That's right." The mention of my mom changed his attitude a little. "When are you thinking of going?" "Tomorrow," I said. "Shoot," he said, snapping his fingers. "I can't make it tomorrow." "Who said anything about you're going, Sam?" He hated visiting my grandfather. The last time Sam had come with us, Tall had mistaken him for my father. Sam wasn't too happy about that. "I didn't expect you to go," I said. "In fact, I was going to spend the weekend with him." "The weekend? Where will you stay?" "At the retirement home. They have a room visitors can stay in. I've done it before." I hadn't done it before, but they did let people stay there. "I don't know, Jacob. It's my last chance to see him before I go." He thought about it. "I guess it'll be all right," he finally said. "How will you get there?" "The train," I said. "I'm going to take my bike with me so I'll have something to do while he takes a nap." "Well," Sam said, looking through a folder, "say hello to him for me." "Sure." I stood up and stretched. "I'm going to bed. Good night." Sam was busy sorting through papers and didn't even respond.